The Brolgas, oh, such a majestic, beautiful bird.
They're a large grey water bird and they inhabit wetlands. They're quite vocal, they will call to each other.
We're just out of Rutherglen, about 5 kilometres east of Rutherglen, and we're in a beautiful site that the Brolgas obviously love.
There's a series of swamps just to the north-east of Rutherglen, and this is where a breeding pair of Brolgas has been based for a number of years, maybe since the early 2000s.
And in and around Rutherglen, we know that there's about 8 or so of them that do occur, and one regularly breeding pair.
It's pretty iconic that you've got a wonderful bird so close to the town.
They're so threatened here in the northeast. So Rutherglen put in for a project, and they established a project not only in educating the community about our beautiful Brolgas here, but also in trying to protect this area. And we saw that here it was the foxes that were the main issue.
Yeah, the community involvement with the Brolgas has been fantastic since the Rutherglen Landcare group sort of initiated it and made the local people more aware of how important these Brolgas are and that they live here and breed here.
Yeah, look, I find Brolgas hugely fascinating, partly because there's so little known about them, and also because they've got these really interesting behaviours. They dance around, they interact a lot with each other, and we know very little about their movements around breeding sites and the non-breeding sites, and also between the two of them. So there's a lot to find out. So anything that you find out about Brolgas is pretty much new information.
The Rutherglen Landcare project with Inca has been wonderful in gaining and enhancing the knowledge around the community.
Brolgas are thought to pair for life like other cranes, and so they reach sexual maturity around sort of 3 years of age, and they pair from that time, and they thought to be together for the rest of their lives.
The Brolga young don't actually fly until they're 3 months old, so that's a long period for the parents to keep them safe from foxes.
They're able to walk out onto a nesting site, which is just out of the water, and that's ideal for them.
The pair will breed in a wetland, in a shallow wetland, and then as the chicks grow, the whole family will move together and the chicks will actually walk, and they can walk quite a long distance. I found about 95% of the chick movements at breeding sites were within 1.4 kilometres. So they will move out of the wetland and feed around in non-wetland, but also wetland habitat with the chick. And they will do that up to about 3 months until the chicks fledge. And once the chicks fledge, they can actually move around a lot more in the landscape. And as the chicks grow, the parents will eventually take the whole family to a non-breeding site where other pairs with their chicks are bringing them as well. So this usually happens around late spring, early summer, when the shallow breeding wetlands dry up. And at these non-breeding grounds where all these Brolgas are getting together with their chicks and their young, the young will then start to interact and start to form bonds. Some of them will come back with the parents to a breeding site, but eventually when in the next season the parents are breeding again, they will kick out the young. So that young will then go and seek other young to hang out with. So you get these sort of bachelor groups in the landscape as well, where they eventually then form those pair bonds and become a breeding pair and go and find themselves a little patch to breed in eventually.
The Brolgas are a majestic bird, and I think they're a great indicator of the health of our environment, both, well, in all aspects, land, water and air. And I think the fact that we've got them here says a lot about the health of the environment in this area at the moment.
Jim O'Toole, for a number of years, he's a keen bird observer as well. He's been observing the Brolgas and photographing them, and has produced a huge number of wonderful images.
Oh, they take an excellent photo, and I think, you know, I've probably got a couple of hundred shots up there that I've bothered to keep out of the many thousands that I've taken over the years. I think we're blessed with a with a wealth of birds in this area, and I think the Brolgas, they're my favourites. Yeah, they're very alert. I think they do get to know you after a while. They've probably seen me thousands of times over the years.
No, well, they are a beautiful looking bird, and they're just something spectacular when you're just, you know, even driving past and you actually see them standing there, just so stately, and the way that they walk.
Yes, the first encounter I had with Brolgas was 1964, and end of September, in Baldo and Brocklesby. I'm sitting down having lunch one day, and this bugling call came right into the shed that you couldn't mistake it. It was so strange that I'd never heard it before. There's a creek called the 12 Mile Creek runs through the bottom of the property, and they were there dancing. So I've never forgotten that. So it was a surprise to see the Brolgas come here in the early 2000s.
The Brolgas are threatened in Victoria, so it's a very special bird.
So the main threats to Brolgas are habitat loss, predation, particularly from feral predators like the fox, collisions with power lines and fences, and also damage to the habitat from stock, particularly cattle.
Fox control is a big issue, particularly for the ones that are here, but we really need to have breeding successes so we get more coming back, but they've got to have the environment for them to come back to, and that's where we need more wetlands that have got a little bit more permanent water.
I think they're pretty wide awake to know that this is a secure amount of water, and it keeps getting topped up because the young take 3 months before they can fly. It's a safer area for them, I think.
It is possible to bring them back if we have the right environment, and then if we can succeed in breeding them successfully with fox and cat control.
Yeah, swamps and wetlands are very important. Even fencing off a small wetland area probably be not much commercial value to a farmer, and the benefit to the Brolgas and all the other water birds as well would be magnificent if a few more projects like that could get up.
Majority of Brolgas habitat occurs on private land, so it's really important that landholders have an interest and have a care for protecting the Brolgas habitat particularly. And some of the things that people can do on their properties is reduce stock access to these breeding wetlands particularly, and try and control predators like the fox, but also it's important that we monitor any predator control.
Landcare's very interested because the Brolgas are a threatened species in Victoria, and it's such a majestic, beautiful, enormous bird. It just captures the imagination, and the local community are very interested in the Brolga and how it gets on.
I come down here and when they're nesting and get up on top of a mine heap, and I can see them move out before sunrise to feed, and it's sunset before they return. They feed all day long.
I love the Brolgas. It'll be hard not to love them after working on them for so many years.
Yeah, I love them.